We are Geekcentric, and you can be too. Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Ciao, geeks, and welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. My name is Kevin, and in this episode, we take a trip to the beautiful Italian coast on an adventure with lessons in friendship and conquering fears. This is our review for Call Me By Your Name. I mean, Luca. But first, if you're joining us for the first time, this is a weekly show covering the world of film, television, gaming, toys and collectibles, and all things geek-centric. Joining me on the show, we have the Il Triton Più Allegro de questa parte Mediterraneo, or the jolliest merman this side of the Mediterranean, Nate.
I'm a merman, Daddy. A merman.
And we also have un uomo che non aspara de bargnarsi e diventar selvaggio, or a man who isn't afraid to get wet and wild, J-Law.
Well, that's good. Momo is a good word to describe me.
It's uomo. My apologies to any of our Italian listeners for absolutely butchering your beautiful language.
I hope they're either, they'll write in and tell us that they're offended, or they'll write in and say that, they were absolutely pleasantly surprised that you tried. So
it was a valiant effort, Kevin.
Exactly.
A valiant effort.
I have never been good with the secondary languages for myself. I was terrible at French in school, and I would not have been any better at Italian, apparently. Alrighty. Are you guys ready to shore up our thoughts on Pixar's newest animated adventure?
Oh, I like it.
Yes,
I like
I
it.
love it.
As a warning, there will be spoilers for Disney's Luca. If you haven't seen the movie yet, what's wrong with you, stupido? But seriously, if you haven't watched the movie yet or want to hear our spoiler-free thoughts, check out our podcast from earlier this week, then watch the movie, and then come right on back to join us right here. For today's show, we're going to give a summary of our overall impressions about the movie before talking specifically about what worked, number one, and number two, what didn't work. We'll then have a discussion about how this movie holds up from both a storyline and visual standpoint in comparison to other Pixar movies. But first, here is a brief synopsis for Luca, which is available to stream now on Disney+. Set in a beautiful seaside town on the Italian Riviera, Disney and Pixar's Luca is a coming-of-age story about one young boy experiencing an unforgettable summer filled with gelato, pasta, and endless scooter rides. Luca shares these adventures with his newfound best friend Alberto, but all the fun is threatened by a deeply held secret. They are sea monsters from another world just below the water's surface. Directed by Enrico Casarosa and written by Jesse Andrews and Mike Jones, the film stars Jacob Tremblay, Jack Dylan Grazer, Emma Berman, Maya Rudolph, Jim Gaffigan, and Marco Berricelli. All right, gents, so as briefly as possible, why don't we jump right in and reiterate our overall impressions of this very literal fish out of water story? Nate, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we said quite a bit about this in terms of our spoiler-free review, but what an incredibly heartwarming and lovely movie. I said it then, and I'm going to say it now. I can't stop thinking about it. I honestly, I think one of the big things is, and I didn't really touch upon this in the spoiler-free, but it borrows a lot from other stories, obviously, but I think Pixar just has this way to still make it so original. And I think a lot of that has to do with the attention to detail in the characters and in their individual personalities. The story arc, I think we see a lot of growth in pretty much, I think, almost every character, not every single one, but almost every character. And I think the subtle ways that Pixar uses foreshadowing for each character is another example of why they're master storytellers. And so, yeah, man, I love it. It's so phenomenal.
I couldn't agree more. Just how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm with Nate. Obviously, from our preview episode, I kind of said it. I wasn't really anticipating much from this movie, but I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed it from its, the beautiful cultural aspects of it, the visuals that is Porto Rosso. and also just the themes that were played out, the friendship, the conquering fears, the idea of adventure, and the idea of escaping we think we might know to learn something new. All of that just really rolled up into this movie really nicely to actually give a very heartfelt story. It sounds like a lot, and it kind of is. Like, there's some things that I think as we discuss, I'll kind of be like, well, I don't know if that was really necessary. But I think overall what they were really trying to hit was this, strong focus on just understanding a world outside of ourselves. And I think that's the biggest thing that I took away from this movie. And I think anyone who's watched it would probably get that sort of messaging from it. So, if you haven't seen it and you're listening to just this, go watch this movie, because it's actually really, really good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't know if it quite holds up to like maybe some of the top tier Pixar movies that they've made over the years. I mean, that's such a high bar to try and meet, but it's certainly, I think, my favorite of the 3 Pixar movies that have come out in the last year. I mean, that sounds crazy to say on its own. It's been a very busy year for Pixar, but I would certainly put this at the top of the list in comparison to Soul and Onward. I just think, as I mentioned in our preview show, I think it's the most beautiful film Pixar's ever done. It just looks so stunning, from the characters to an environment that you just get so immersed in, and you feel like you're there at the time and then instantly want to go visit it. I think the character work, the acting was so strong and really helped to deliver the messages that Pixar was trying to sort of promote with the movie. And so, honestly, I'll have very, very little to nitpick about this when we get to that part of the show. I just honestly think it was a tremendous effort. But speaking of which, why don't we get a bit more specific, and we'll start to break the movie down a bit more. Why don't we go into some elements from the film that you thought just really, really worked? Justin?
Yeah, I honestly think, grounding the story in the Italian culture while also leaning on sort of the myths and legends and the lore of Italian history, I think that was a good idea for them to do, to really ground this in something that is tangible and that we can be connected to, while also creating a fictional place of Porto Rosso. You can see the inspiration of culture everywhere. Enrico Casarosa, the director, who actually has lived there, it was very important for him to take the filmmakers and travel, do the research across Italy, look at the architecture, just get a feeling and a setting, and obviously take a look at the food too, right, and enjoy that. I think all of that kind of wrapped into this movie really, really well to kind of create a very original yet tangible place, if that makes sense, right? So also just going back to the idea of using sea monsters, like the sea monster metaphor really stands out for just kind of like, I guess, like a feeling of being different or excluded, which I think is very topical to like right now in the world today. And that stems further into this idea of acceptance and understanding one another based on those differences. So I think that these are the things that really kind of like, to me at least, stood out, that worked really, really well with elevating this movie and really hitting home that message.
Yeah, for sure. I gotta say, like, there's so much that I loved about this movie. It's hard to like kind of narrow it down. And yes, it's not what I liked. I changed the segment title to what I loved, because it honestly, it felt like a much needed vacation. Like we were kind of talking about it, the sense of exploration and wonder throughout the movie is, as Luca sort of explores more and more of the outside world, and how Pixar's animators have done such a phenomenal job. Again, I think it's just, it's one of those movies that will stick with you. It will stay with me, and I think they really knocked it out of the park. And I also want to just shout out like other things that I loved in terms of like the music. We mentioned in the preview episode how wonderful it is, but like you've got the big horns of the score, or the Italian guitar and piano in Dan Romer's score, blended with classic vintage songs from Quartetto Cetra or Mina, who I'm just discovering through listening to a lot of the music from this movie, and she's incredible. And she's a classic Italian artist from the 1950s and 60s, and like, again, this is just something that Pixar does, where they introduce general audiences to these aspects of culture, and they source it, and it's so it's so specific. Like even like to the point of like talking about like Luca's little farm that he runs with his goat fish. Apparently goat fish are a real species of fish, and they're found in the waters on the coast of Italy. So it's just like, that's so cool, again, that they took this, and they played it for a laugh with that dumb goat, like, or like, I loved when he's like, Mona Lisa, why are you smiling? And then she like lets out a bunch of other little fish from her mouth, like, just so many like incredible little details that they pay attention to throughout the movie, and I just thought that was so wonderful.
Something I thought really, really stood out was, I mean, I think Pixar's pretty notorious for this, but I thought the voice acting was just fantastic, specifically from Saverio Raimondo.
Oh, Ercole?
Ercole is a great classic Disney villain, just somebody that you love to hate, but also mustache. Love when they're on the screen. Oh, his little catfish whiskers. Yeah. He was just so much fun, like just a deliciously evil kind of guy.
Yeah, I almost feel like who's the guy from like Ratatouille, the villain Anton Ego from Ratatouille could have been like related.
He's his uncle, yeah.
He's his Parisian uncle or something like that. Like, I don't know, man. It just like he's definitely classic villain. That might
have been done intentionally, though, to kind of create that sort of continuity.
Oh, we're doing the Pixar world theory again, Justin? Is that where we're at?
I don't know. Like, I now that you've said it, it does ring true. I think that there is a bit of a sort of parody, if you will, to that sort of that character.
I could just see him like slapping him on the back of the head. It's just like anyway, knocking him into shape.
And then huge props too to Emma Berman, who plays Julia. I just the way her IMDb profile is next to non-existent. I mean, this is basically her first role ever, so that in and of itself is incredible. Really? But the way she was able to, incorporate Italian into her dialogue, it sounded so authentic and real. It was just fantastic.
And like, shout out to also the writing, like her line delivery, of course, I mentioned in the preview episode, is very authentic, but like, shout out to the writing for just making the things that she says sound so much just like a little hyperactive kid. And she even says it at one point in the movie, like, am I too much? Like, my mom says I'm too much. And like, I just have to shout out when she's like, or can you stand passive aggressive insults? Like, that's a nice bike. I was just kidding. That bike is not nice, or that bike is terrible, or something like. It's just so well done, and I loved it all. And like Jacob Tremblay as well, like just his it's interesting. I found him in previous roles that he's been in, at least in live action, I haven't really enjoyed him that much. I felt like and maybe he's obviously grown up a little bit now since I've last seen him in a movie, but like I just think he completely knocked it out of the park. And again, with some of the restrictions that they might have had when acting off of each other, I think it was just phenomenal. But one of the kind of the neat things that we had learned again from the screener email was that apparently burping on command. So when he does that, eats all that pasta and gets on the bike and he can't bike ride anymore. He has that big burp. Apparently that's like a thing that Jacob can just do, which is burp on command. There you go, Kevin. We should get you in the next Pixar movie. But no, I just listen, I think the whole cast was so phenomenal and like such a tight-knit cast, right? I want to shout out Maya Rudolph and Jim Gaffigan as well, for just being like Jim Gaffigan for Lorenzo being that dad who's like he's so useless. He's just the useless.
I do not have control over things,
right? It's so good. Or like just the moment when he like tosses that kid in the water was so phenomenal. And he's like, oh shoot. But even Maya Rudolph, she encompasses the mother who you see getting really mad, but then I love the moment when she grabs Luca's face and just look me in the eye. I love you. And then he does the same thing for her at the end, and I'm going to cry again just talking about it. But listen, the tight-knit cast, the small cast, I think was the absolutely right direction to go, and that was another thing that I loved about this movie.
It was funny because you can see little bits of your own parents in each of them, right?
Oh,
Like,
100%.
it's so funny.
That was my mom for sure, right? And
I totally saw it by like my dad in like even just in Massimo, like
Yeah.
that sort of tough guy nature,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, I thought that was great.
Can I also just quickly talk about Massimo really quick? Like, I thought he was just so fantastic because, like, you know, you kind of see Alberto's connection to Massimo grow as kind of like a new father figure for him. And so, like, just, again, these little touches that I only noticed the second time I watched it. Like, he gets so excited when Massimo asks him to help with the nets. Even though he has to leave his two friends behind and walk away from them, kind of getting a little jealous as you know, Luca and Julia kind of get a little closer together. But I love these little touches. Or like when Alberto eats pasta with his hands, and then you see later in the movie Massimo trying to eat the pasta with his hand. I just thought it was such a phenomenal way to show that he is kind of really taking a liking to this kid.
Well,
and I also
at the end though, right? Like it really
Yes.
hits at the end.
Oh, for sure.
When they're revealed, right?
But that's what I'm talking about. Like throughout the movie, all these little tiny moments, very small moments, and Pixar's so good with that. And I just want to shout out one more thing. Massimo understands more than anyone what it's like to be born
different,
right? And I think that was so perfect that they added that line of him saying like, "I was born this way," because then it really helps at the end when he like just instantly accepts them. I was crying. Like I'm gonna cry again. Like it's honestly, it's so it's so beautiful, and it's so lovely, Justin. You can't say it's not lovely. It's amazing.
Oh, it's definitely lovely, but like, you know, get the man a box of tissues because he's about to leak everywhere.
I mean, just so we're not leaving anybody out, props to Jack Dylan Grazer. He played the role of Alberto perfectly. He brought that right level of cockiness, masking insecurity that I thought was really, really good. I mean, Jack Dylan Grazer might be my favorite, you know, young actor these days. He's great in it. He's great in Shazam. He's really good in this as well.
He's dynamic. So. He's very dynamic.
Yeah, he's got a lot of charisma. And, yeah.
A shout out to Sacha Baron Cohen as well, as playing Uncle.
Was he Ugo?
Yeah,
he was Ugo.
Was? Okay.
No, okay, I could have swore because I didn't see it in the credits.
Yeah. So
he's Ugo.
But yeah, Uncle Ugo was hilarious.
Yeah, I know. I could have used some more of him, I think. Well, obviously there's a lot to love about this movie. But I mean, nothing's perfect. Was there anything that didn't quite work for this movie? Given the high expectations that we've all come to have for a Pixar movie, was there anything that stood out as not quite hitting the mark?
I don't know. Like I maybe this might be a slight diss to the movie, but I do think that while there was all this great thematical elements that were just mixed into this pot to create this movie, there was just a lot. There was a lot. There was a whole lot with the representation of them being sea monsters, without really any sort of clear explanation as to how or why they're able to just transform to like human when they step out of water.
Do you need that though?
I think it's just something that they do.
I don't really know how to articulate what I want to say here, so maybe there really isn't a point to. But I just think that the whole idea, it felt as though them being sea monsters, while it would be very integral and important, really only served a purpose towards the end when they were revealed. Like they were obviously in hiding the entire time. And I understand that from the metaphor of you know, trying to fit in and not be yourself, and you know they are who they are. But like it didn't, you know, like there seems to be so many other things that kind of overrode that, like the idea of like the friendship, the sort of idea of just the community, not knowing, stepping outside of yourself to really, you know, take a risk. But I just thought there was a lot that was just kind of mixed into this, and like towards the end when there's the sudden realization that they are sea monsters. Like it just seems like everyone really accepted them very quickly, and that's in part felt from, you know, Massimo's, I guess, just kind of stepping in.
I think that was the point there. Yeah, he's sort of the voice of. He's what everybody looks up to in the town, I guess, as sort of barometer.
As the sea monster hunter. But I also think like the entire town, like I think a lot of the kids maybe it was built up for the kids. The sea monster lore was built up for the kids, and there's some old people that might still really hold on to it. But I think like Massimo and sort of his generation of the adults on the island, I think they're just there in the town. They're just sort of saying they're telling these stories because it's fun to tell them. I think it's just more of a. It could even be seen as like a touristy thing. Like, oh, maybe we can get more people here if we kind of put posters up about scary sea monsters and create this sort of fake farce that they exist. And I don't know. I really thought it was absolutely believable that they made that switch. And I think it also added to how powerful the movie was. And again, the Massimo point that we pointed out earlier.
For me, I think one thing that I was a little disappointed in, and I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a really, really well-written movie, but I didn't find it as funny as some other Pixar movies. I mean, in terms of like dialogue presenting jokes, there was visual slapsticky style humor. I mean, the cat was fantastic.
Oh, Machiavelli.
The cat was hilarious. And again, Air Cole was really, really fun, but I don't know if any of the characters had any of that sort of signature Pixar humor that I've come to expect and look forward to.
I was saying this in the previous show. It seems like over the last year with movies that Pixar has released, they seem to have kind of steered more toward having an emotional resonance with the audience rather than just comedic stylings of what they've traditionally done that we're more familiar with, like maybe like a Toy Story style humor where things are quips and jokes and punniness is kind of written in a very, intelligent and intentional manner. I think that this leaned more on the slapstick style rather than like sort of like clever comedic writing. I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay. I can see your points again. Like, and I think that's, obviously it's what you thought of the film. So that's totally fine. That slapstick humor, that's reminiscent of the kind of humor you would expect from that era of film of in the 50s, in the 60s. That's very apparent. And so again, it to me, I just saw that as another way of like for it to not have that quippy dialogue. It was simple. It was light. It was airy, like we've said. I really tried to think so hard of something I didn't like about the movie. This took me the longest time to write, and I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find any narrative moments that didn't pay off for the characters. I couldn't find any characters I didn't enjoy that bugged me. And I couldn't find any parts that didn't make sense for me. And so I just think that because we have a section called what I didn't like, I couldn't find anything. And so I'm like, I'm not going to push myself to. No.
No sense in forcing it.
I don't know. I loved it.
I mean,
it was amazing.
Jumping in, like, to sort of latch onto something you just said there, Nate, and this might be what you were saying just a minute ago, Justin. It almost felt like this movie was a bit simpler. It wasn't as complex in terms of even the themes that it was dealing with that we've seen in some previous Pixar movies. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought Soul went way too far in the other direction and was way too heavy and way too weighty for what is essentially a family movie. But this one almost felt more tailored to kids than to kids of all ages, if you will. I don't think there was as much there for adults as there typically is in the Pixar movies. And maybe, again, that comes from just the lack of sort of adult jokes hidden amongst a kid's movie like we've seen in previous Pixar movies. I'm not sure. It felt like Pixar light almost in a way for me.
Yeah, I think this is a good representation, though, of, as we've already said, from the past year of movies that Pixar has released, a kind of a shift. Still the same sort of culture of Pixar with sort of heartfelt, very relatable, sort of connected stories, but also just, I think, leaning more on that sort of leaving an audience with something that has more emotional resonance and still having a fun time along the way. Because I think there's a comparison that can be made between this and Onward. I think there's similarities there, and I feel like just Pixar is definitely, they're trying to really find, I think, a way to not necessarily reinvent themselves, but keep themselves fresh, so that they're not just known for the Toy Stories or the Cars or the Bugs Life and all those things that.
But do you think this will hold stand the test of time, like something like a Toy Story or even an Up or something like that? Like, is this a movie people are going to be talking about in a few years?
Well, are we comparing it to all the other Pixar movies at this point?
I mean, why don't we jump right into that?
Sure.
How does this sort of hold up or compare either visually or from a storytelling standpoint to previous Pixar movies?
Here's the thing: to come in with the hardball of Toy Story, and some of the more kind of original classic, The Incredibles and that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely new Pixar. This is a future iteration of Pixar, and it's modern Pixar, and I think as far as modern Pixar is concerned, absolutely, I think it absolutely does stand up to that. Is it going to replace Toy Story? No, not in the slightest. But at the same time, I don't think it's trying to. I don't think it's trying at all to try to be that. Again, it's light, it's airy, it's enjoyable, it's comfort food. It's something that you just want to. It's not like a heavy bowl of pasta. Right. Except it makes you want to eat one. But like it's something that you turn on when you're not feeling too great, and it's going to make you feel better. And I think for me, that in terms of comparing to other Pixar movies. Yeah, I loved it. And specifically, like, listen, I dropped a hot take. I think it was a hot take because I know a lot of people really loved Soul, and I loved Soul. But I dropped a hot take not too long ago when I said I enjoyed Mitchell's versus the Machines more than Soul. I'm going to do it again and say that I enjoyed this movie more than either of those movies. And so as far as how it stacks up, I mean, however you want to put that in the ranking, go for it. But it's, as far as modern Pixar is concerned, at least their past, I would say, 5 movies, this is at the top for me.
I don't know if I could say the same. I definitely enjoy the messaging and the themes, and I think, Kevin, to your point, while Soul seemed to really go far out, and it seemed like it was more for the parents that would watch that movie with their kids, I feel like this movie was for the kids, but I think parents can still look at it and see the important values and why it would be good for their kids to watch it. That being said, I don't know, like I feel like just because of those elements, I don't think it'll stand the test of time for it to be an all-time great for Pixar. I think that it definitely has captured its own unique look, its own unique style. Its aesthetic is definitely on its own, and I love that. But in terms of its story and what it does, I think there's better examples that Pixar has done. They still carry weight in terms of really good storytelling and
Yeah, I think when I look at Pixar, I almost view it in tiers. Way down at the bottom, I would put things like Cars, all of the Cars movies, Incredibles 2, Brave was a weaker one in my opinion. I mean, obviously at the top you have those classics that we've already mentioned: Toy Story, Monsters Inc., Incredibles. That just they'll be tough to sort of reach that. It'll be tough to make a movie that good for them again. I think just because of how fresh and original and new it was in the world of animation at the time. So I think this sort of goes into that second tier with movies like Ratatouille and Up and WALL-E, where it's not quite the pinnacle of what they've been able to achieve as storytellers, but has so much going for it and works in so many ways far more than it doesn't work, that I think it was a great movie. Even when Pixar doesn't hit a home run, they're still getting a triple and driving in a few runs. Like, they're still getting it done, and they're still better than anybody out there making animated films, including their own Disney animation studio. And so, again, when I say it's not a top tier, that's not trying to diminish the quality of this movie in any way. It's interesting. I mean, now that they're up to they're at almost 25 movies Pixar's done, it would be interesting to sort of take a look and sort of try and rank the movies. Now that there's such a large catalog to work with, I'm wondering where this would slot in from 1 to 24 on my scale of Pixar films.
Well, tune in for a future episode. We might just do that.
That'd be kind of fun to do.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. But before we get to our sort of conclusion and our final scores, were there any moments in the movie that stood out for you that you really enjoyed?
Yes, 100%. There were a million. So, guys, strap in. This is going to be my podcast from now on. I'm hosting from now on. I'm taking it over. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, I love, I'm going to just name 2 maybe. I loved seeing the mini attempts at building the Vespa and then they're taking it down the ramp, and there's that one moment where he's like, "Who's got the ramp? Turtle does," and it's just this turtle like about to walk off the stone or whatever the rock. He's faster than he looks, and I just love how it doesn't work every single time until they do it together. Right, and it's just so much great foreshadowing for the underdogs later on. So phenomenal. I loved seeing when Julia shows Luca the stars, and you see that sort of spark for learning just grow in him, and it's just so beautifully animated. And she tells him about Saturno, and they fly through the Colosseum in Rome, and he just gets so excited to read her school books. It just, again, it's just another moment that just helps that finale, that beautiful ending moment, really pay off, and just how
is that
how
when he gets on the Hogwarts Express?
Yeah, I guess it's when he gets on the Hogwarts Express for sure, and says goodbye to Alberto, and that's so nice.
Okay, where's your tissue? Some things that really stood out to me as moments was the dream sequences that he had. The sort of like imagining beyond. So, with him and Alberto on the Vespa, or, to Nate's point, when he's with Julia and they're, she's basically teaching him how they first represented just his excitement and his imagination of what the beyond is, of what he doesn't know. But also just how the dream states were kind of depicted, very dreamlike. Everything looked so sharp when they were in the real world, but in the dream it looked more painterly. Like it looked more like brush strokes and just sort of like pastel-y colors, and just they really try to hone in on Luca's desire to know more and his excitement to know more and beyond what he knew in just those like little dreamlike moments. And I think that was so telling for his character and where he ends up on that train at the end to actually go and do the next part of his journey. Like it really helps bring that home.
And you see Alberto's influence on the dream, and you see Julia's influence on the dream, right? In the first one, he's touching a giant fish surrounded by other fish because all they know is fish. And then in Julia's, they're actually exploring different parts of Italy and real world historical.
And both connect to space. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So interesting.
Yeah, I think. I've mentioned I love the cat. The cat and his wild suspicions about these two sea creatures, and just always around the corner. Like, I know you guys are up to something. I thought that was a really fun little play that they sort of carried on through the middle of the movie. And then you sort of mentioned, I think my absolute favorite scene was when Julia is telling Luca about how, the stars work, and then it's, what's outside of our solar system? A galaxy full of solar systems, and what's outside of that? I thought that was, and you said it, that wide-eyed, just like yearning to learn more and this sense of discovery. It was really, really well done.
And just like the influence of space and how integral like that was into Italian culture, to just like explore the stars as well as the sea, to just be fascinated with the beyond. Like that's how far the culture kind of steeps itself in this story, is even on the little sort of flavor points around it.
Well, that's a really good point, just because Italians played a huge role in the development of our understanding of astronomy. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Anyways, the other last thing I wanted to say was Massimo, when he finds out Alberto's gone, and how he grabs his hat and he like goes right away. And he's like, I'm gonna go find him. I will go look for him. Right. So, like that to me was right at the point of when it was like, he's assuming a father figure role for Alberto. And, it did make that that payoff at the end to see him come up. You knew he wasn't going to do anything to them. You knew he wasn't gonna attack them. He wasn't gonna spear them, because he knew them for Alberto and Luca, right? Yeah. He didn't know them for these sea monsters. And he, in that moment, as we were saying, is that representation of that switch for the rest of the town. Some of them look like they're just like, well, we're not gonna fight Massimo because he's gonna kill us, right? Like, with one hand.
Oh well, yeah. Hey, that guy. You see that huge human? He kills things.
Oh, I love that. It was so good. And then Justin, you and I were talking off air about do they do a sequel? Do they not do? I don't think they absolutely don't have to.
No,
first of all,
they
I don't want
have
them to. But I love that they sort of gave us a little more in the credits, right? We see Machiavelli, the little illustration of Machiavelli and his family with his little kittens, and he's just like sitting there like oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? And then you see Massimo visiting with Luca's family, or like when he gives a knife to Alberto for his birthday because Alberto is so excited, like, which knife is mine, right? And it's just it's just, again, this level of storytelling that is just it makes you so happy to see these payoffs literally from something you've seen less than an hour and a half ago. And it's like it's just it's so good.
It really wraps up the happy ending in those end credit scenes. We did talk offline about it. I just feel like this film, above all other Pixar films, in my opinion, really does leave it open for them to actually do another story. Like, none of their other films did they ever need to actually do it. Narratively, they've ended in a way that, you know, they could do a sequel, and while it's not necessary, I totally agree. It's a possibility. It doesn't feel so like closed book, right?
I think, you know what that leads to, though? Pixar shorts. Right? We get some more Pixar shorts. We've already seen them do that with some of their other properties, where we get on Disney Plus, we get a little short
a better way,
here, a little short. Like, honestly, I'm assuming we're going to get a Machiavelli short at some point. That's just him going about his day. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see how they continue to hopefully still utilize this IP, but I don't want a sequel. I don't want a whole movie. I just want, I'll take little moments here and there, like what we got in the credits.
Awesome. I mean, I guess time will tell. But speaking of time, we are almost out. And so I think it's time to give our final impressions and overall scores for the movie. The scales that we'll be using today will be out of 5 brand spanking new Vespas. Nate, do you want to start us off?
Oh, I can't wait. So you mean we don't have to ride around on the rickety old Vespa?
No, we're going Air Cole style here. We're getting the fancy flashy one.
Let's go. And listen, Kevin, if it falls over, don't worry. I'll jump underneath it and you can
That was awesome.
I'll save it. Oh, it was so good. That little chicho. This movie from start to finish, I think is a classic story that I enjoyed so much, with the way that it carries its theme through every character, their lovable personalities. It's just like a warm hug, and I don't know how you can't not love this movie. I love how they didn't rely on bringing any sort of unnecessary like love story in or any unnecessary characters. I think everything about this movie fit perfectly in its place, and the plot was paced excellently. I can't wait to travel again and walk around Italy saying, "What's wrong with you, stupido?" Like I said in our spoiler-free review, this movie will live on to be comfort food. But I like a really tasty dish of comfort food with some gelato, maybe. We can add that on at the end. I adored this movie, and I love that if you want to take the narrative a few different ways, you absolutely can. There's so many different themes to work off of. And so that's how Pixar does it. That's the magic of their storytelling. They tell stories that connect with audiences on a global scale at a human level. And I think that's the way that they were able to fit all those themes in there and not really make I don't think any one of them felt left out. I think they all felt important for all the characters. Is fantastic. This movie is getting 5 brand new Vespas. Better than ones that Air Cole would probably ride, for sure. So please watch Luca, watch it again, and then watch it again.
The perfect 5 out of 5. Gotta love
it's
it.
100%. Oh yeah, I'd give it a 6 if I could, but I can't. You won't let me.
I won't let you know. Sorry, Justin. What
doesn't
final
make any
thoughts?
sense if you give a 6. I've overstated this given the preview and now this podcast, but this movie I love for its cultural representation, its narrative themes of the friendship and the conquering the fears, and really kind of the idea of just understanding more outside of oneself. To Nate's point, this is Pixar at its best in the sense that it does tell a story for the world. It's on a global scale that everyone can relate to. So for that, it is absolutely stunning. Integrated with that is its beautiful aesthetic of this vibrant, culturally seaside Italian Riviera style. I absolutely love the aesthetic. It does stand on its own. It's very unique. That being said, though, I think there are some things with this story and certain elements that I do feel like kind of get left behind But, you know, in the end, the conclusion of this story and the end of this adventure, it's a really fun trip. For that reason, I'll give this movie 4 out of 5 brand spanking new Vespas.
Beautiful. Love it. Yeah, I mean, we've really gushed about the things that worked well in this movie a lot over this podcast and the preview, so I won't spend too much time, but I really do think that the way they've crafted their best looking movie to date, in combination with one of the best soundtracks they've ever had for a movie, I've never felt more a part of a Pixar movie before. Like, I really felt like I was right there at this seaside town with these characters, and I was part of the adventure. And I think that's the lasting charm that I'm going to, take away from this movie. When I watched it the first time, I was like, that was okay. And then I watched it again, and it resonated with me so much more for whatever reason. And my score drastically improved as a result of that. So I am glad I gave it a second chance, and would thoroughly recommend that to anybody, especially because of how just short of a runtime it has and how quickly paced it is. This movie zings along like you are riding on a supercharged Vespa through the Italian countryside. It is just light and breezy and easy. And I think it was almost a little too light and safe that prevents it from reaching that top tier, echelon of all-time great Pixar movies. But it's a wonderful addition to the library. It's probably my favorite Pixar movie since Toy Story 4, and my favorite original Pixar story since Inside Out. And so for that reason, I strongly recommend this for any fans of Disney or for someone just wanting a feel-good, hour and 20 minutes watching a movie. And I will give this 4.1 brand spanking new Vespas out of 5.
Very cool.
Awesome. Well, that is all, folks. It's time for us to say good day. We hope you enjoyed this review of Luca. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And this is one of those times where we don't want you to be silencio, Bruno. In fact, we'd love to know what you thought about the movie. Justin, where can they do that?
They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com.
That was like the one time he didn't say it with an accent. Like,
oh,
what
yeah.
the heck, Justin?
Sure. Okay, let me do that again. You can reach us at the wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That is a wearegeekcentric@gmail.com.
And just so you know, it's not a Gmail, just in case anybody was wondering, it's just at Gmail. Guys, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty tired. This has actually been a really, really busy week for us here at Geekcentric. And as a result, there's never been a better time to check us out and see what we're all about. That said, we are Geekcentric, and you can be too, which means you can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Geekcentric. Follow us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT, and follow us on Instagram at We Are Geekcentric. You can also join Nate over on Twitch. What's coming up for you over on Nate Plays Games?
Oh my gosh, it's all about Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Kevin, I'm telling you right now that if anyone's listening to this and they don't own a PS5, I don't care if they have to sell a liver or sell all their scales or sell their Vespa even. They need to get a PS5 and play Ratchet & Clank. It is up there with, I would say, Miles Morales as the best PS5 game. And I know there's not a ton of them, but for the fact that Insomniac as a developer has made the top 2 standards of what gaming should be like on PS5 is just fantastic. And that is what I'm streaming on twitch.tv/NatePlaysGames. So check out my Instagram, which will be in the description as well of the podcast, so that you can find out when I'm going live and rocking that game.
Well, and just as a heads up for our listeners, you only have one liver, so don't sell that, but you do have 2 kidneys, so maybe one of those can go.
Listen, I've got too much Pixar on the brain, okay? I don't have the ability to look up anatomy.
That's awesome. Nate, Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this splashy review. And as we say,
ti amo.
Resta a casa al serio.
Peace.